During this session, we're going to look at automated deployments for Qlik Sense. I'd first like to show you how you can deploy apps if you don't have Platform Manager, and then I'm going to explain how that works, and finally I'm going to show you how it works in the solution itself. Let's first assume that you have a 3-server environment. You have development, test QA, and production, all in separate servers. And these can be on-premise, these can be on the cloud, in Amazon, AWS, and Azure, or they can be in a hybrid environment. What's important is that you want to isolate development and isolate production from each other. So you don't want development to interfere with production and vice versa. You also want to have a controlled and governed production environment where your business users can analyze your data using reliable and stable Qlik apps. Now your developers can just work in development. Let's go into a 2-server view where we just focus on development and test QA. So what are the steps that you need to take to bring an app from development to test? Well, first of all, you have to sign in to the development QMC. So it already means that you need to have access to the Qlik Management Console to be able to download an app, because this cannot be done through the hub. Then you have to select the app you want to publish. The next step is that you need to download the app to your file server. And of course, you need to move or copy that app to the test QA server. I deliberately say move because if you copy it, you also leave the old version on the development environment. And that makes the risk of uploading a different version than the one that you've downloaded even bigger. So then you need to go to your test QA server and you need to sign into the QMC on that server. Next step is that you need to upload the app to that QMC so that it's available in Qlik Sense. Then you need to change your data connections. This depends on how you've configured Qlik Sense. It's possible that you can skip this step depending on how you've defined the connections. Then you publish the app to the stream where the business users are looking at the app, and then finally you may want to schedule a reload so that you have the latest data available in your app. I'm skipping the fact that you may have extensions used in the app, and you may also want to change the publish and schedule steps so that you first run the reload and then do the publication, so that the business user always has a populated app. Now, what does this look like in Platform Manager? Within Platform Manager, of course, Platform Manager has all the apps that you have in your environment. So we have the latest version, and Platform Manager is always your single point of contact. So when you're a developer, you start your change in Platform Manager, selecting the app, performing an edit. When you're administrator, you want to publish an app, again, you select the app from Platform Manager, and you select the promote option, as you can see, just a single click. Then from the wizard that appears, you can use the auto promote function, and this enables you to do the promotion without specifying all the additional parameters that you see on the screen in steps 2, 3, and 4. What Platform Manager does, it records those steps, it records the values that you select, and you can just use them with any subsequent promotion of those same apps. So in this case, you can see that we're going to publish the app to 3 streams in our acceptance environment: marketing, sales, and support. And we can do that in a single job. And then the final step is that we need to click the next button. We can run it immediately, which is what happens when you click next, or you can pick a date and a time if you want to postpone this to a later stage. So this is how easy it can be in Platform Manager. So let's now look into the solution. Okay, so let's now have a look at how you can publish apps from development to acceptance. So I'm in Platform Manager in development right now. I'm going to select the apps that I'd like to publish, in this case cars and car rentals. Of course, you can publish as many apps in one go as you like. I'm using the promote function here to get the items from development to acceptance. Now, as I showed you during the PowerPoint, it's quite easy. Just use the auto promote option, press next, and that's it. And then these items will be published to acceptance projects and the comments will go to Europe marketing. For now, I'll just unclick the auto promote option because I want to show you the individual steps that we have here. So first of all, I'm going to publish to a single stream to keep it simple. And the next step in the wizard allows me to specify some comments. So I'm just going to type in demo promote. So all of these comments are stored with the individual items and they appear in the lifecycle report, for instance. And as a checklist, I can make a choice of the ones that we see here. So if you hover over the checklist, you can see the individual tasks that are part of the checklist. In this case, I'm going to use the bug fix checklist. And then the final screen enables me to define the Qlik Sense data connections. So if I just open them up, you see that all the connections are green. That means that they've been met before, so there's no need for me to change this. But in case I want to change this, I can just simply select this drop-down box, which shows me a list of all the Qlik Sense connections in my destination Qlik Sense repository. And of course, I only see the connections that I'm allowed to use. Well, this has been done before, so I'm not changing anything. And then finally, there's an interesting option here that allows us to reload the app. Now, reloading means that we first put the app in a temporary location, then we perform the reload, and when the reload has finished, then we replace the app that the business user is looking at with the promoted version. So by using this mechanism, the business user is never having an app without any data. And I think that's quite neat to do it like that. And of course, you can schedule this if you don't want this to run immediately. You can schedule it for a later date time. So the promotion is finished now. So we can see that if we just pick one of the apps, then you can see that the version that we have in development now also lives in acceptance in the projects stream, just like we published. And that's the same for the Cars app, of course. You can also see, of course, every individual version that lives in every server. So we can see, for instance, that production still has quite an old server, an old version in this case. Now, if I want to continue with the process, that means that I need to go to acceptance and then work my way through the checklist. So I'm just going to click on this link that brings me directly to acceptance. So I'm no longer now in development. I'm in acceptance or in a promotion environment, as we call it. So that means that we have a lot less options here. I'm not able to change the app. I need to go back to the development if I want to do that. I can perform a view or a get, and of course the obvious next step will be to go through the checklist. However, we selected a checklist which was called bug fix, and that means that there's no checklist really available here. So it's already immediately the item is approved, and I can immediately move this now to the next environment. So, and then you have it in your production environment. If you use the promote option, it's also reloaded if you like. Now, if I just pick another item, I can have a look at the checklist that's associated with this car details and dealer info app. And what you can see here that this checklist contains 5 different tasks, and I'm allowed to approve 2 of those, and 3 of them are basically have to be approved by my colleagues. So we see here the check for database updates, which has to be checked by the DBA that we have. Then our senior developer needs to check if all the extensions that we have live in production. If they don't live there, and you would anyhow try to promote the app, we will just prevent promotion, and we will give you a warning message that you need to fix your extensions and make sure that they all live in production. And then we have one of the business users who does the final approval as well. So they really pretty much decide if the app is ready to go into the production environment. Just an example checklist. Of course, you can have many different flavors depending on the type of applications that you are promoting. So let me now move back to development, because I'd like to show you some additional options as well in terms of publishing apps. So what we've done now, we've published 2 apps to our acceptance environment, and during the promote, we were also able to change the data connections. Now, what I could also have done is, instead of doing this, publishing individual apps, which means that you also can restore individual apps. That works for a lot of situations. But in some situations, you want to stick the apps together. You want them to keep together because they have a dependency. Like if one of them is a QVD creator and the other app is a QVD consumer, then they should be stick together, because if you change the QVD creator, you put additional data in, and you also use that data in the QVD consumer, and you would restore the QVD creator, then you have an issue in your QVD consumer app. So that's really why we have the option to build a release. Now, release can be built quite easy. You could select a lot of apps here, of course. Let me just select all of the apps that are belonging to the cars project. And then what I can do is I can say to PlatformManager, okay, I want you to create a release out of these apps. And that means that it will not only put these apps that I've selected in the release, but it will also look at the dependencies and add all the dependent files to the release as well. That means that we now get also the Excel sheets that we are using, the text files that we're using, but also the Qlik Sense apps that are generating QVD files, which we are using as part of the release. So I'm going to give this a unique name. Okay, I guess I can specify a description as well. I'm just going to create a release. So PlatformManager now switches to the release view, and I can see the release that we've just created here. So let me just open that up. And now you can see that the apps that we've selected are here, the Excel sheets, the text files, and so on and so forth. You can also see that some of these have been promoted and some older versions have been promoted. So now we are capable of publishing the entire release. We can still do a lot of stuff on the releases. We can add additional items. We can freeze the release, so put a lock on the release. And of course, we can publish that. So let's do that. So let me just first assign a version number to all of the items. So that means that all the items that don't have a version number will get one. Let's do that, give them a minor update. So that's been taken care of now. And now I can basically assign a release to the release itself. Let's make this a major release. And then we can actually publish the release to the acceptance environment. So let's just do that. I'm going to use the promote function. Auto promote is not available because this is a new release, hasn't been published before. So at first I'm going to select the location for the release itself. So I'm going to put that in the projects folder. Now the next screen looks a little bit complicated maybe, but that's because it provides a lot of options. And this is just a matter of defining this once, and then you can reuse that for every new version of the release. First of all, I can select a checklist for the release itself. Now, that does make sense. So you could say, for instance, that we have a default checklist for non-critical apps. And then we have the option to specify a comment. You can pick the checklist. Currently, this is set as the automatic selection checklist. I could say I'm going to use the default for non-critical apps. And then we can specify the destination. Now it's already defined that the Qlik Sense apps go into the projects folder. I could also select the location for all of the Excel sheets, for instance. So let's move those to the appropriate Excel sheet folder. So let me just select that one. and that lives in the custom files location, and then in projects we have a separate Excel sheet. Again, this is of course completely customizable, and it's up to you where you want to store these. And then we also have one text file, and I want to go into the text file location. So that's a little bit in the same environment. So those files do not go into the Qlik Sense environment, they go on a file server location in this case. But again, that's configurable as well. Now, and the final step is that for all of the Qlik Sense apps, again, we can change the data connections, of course. Well, in this case, if they have not been mapped before, you will see them as blue. That means that they haven't been mapped, but PlatformManager was able to find a connection that he thinks is the one that you want to use. If you don't, again, like defined before, you can just select the connection that you want to use. And of course, you can perform a reload for all of these apps. Finally, you want to schedule it or run it immediately. Let's run it immediately and see what happens. So now you can see the release has been published. This blue arrow shows that basically. And if I can go to that release by clicking this hyperlink. So again, I'm moving from development to promotion into the folder where the release has been located, and also viewing the releases. So I can see now what the individual files are in this release, and of course I could update checklist for each individual file. And then again, that depends, of course, what checklist you've selected. In this case, we've this checklist, I can tell, okay, the acceptance testing has been finalized, and you can see that the state of the item immediately changes to approved, because this is the only mandatory task that's in this checklist. The documentation task is optional, so it doesn't prevent you from publishing this to production, but of course the idea is to get the documentation available. Now what I could also do is get all of the items selected and then go into the checklist, and then you can immediately update all of the checks at once for well, the entire release, if you like. And that's useful, of course, because then you can first of all test everything. And then when everything has been tested correctly, you can in one go move this release to the next environment. Very useful way of publishing apps. If you wanted to revert to the previous version, you can perform a restore as well. I can show you that with this one. This has already been restored. If I wanted to move back to version 1, of course, I could simply select this one, choose the restore option, and that means that it will actually put the versions of the apps that belong to that release back into PlatformManager and also back into the Qlik Sense environment. What you can also do is you can mix QlikView and Qlik Sense items in one release. So that's also, I think, also useful to say. And then, of course, the QlikView items will go to can go to a different location than Qlik Sense. Nowadays, you can also get them in the same environment, but it's completely up to you what the destination location is of those files. Another way of creating a release is a little different. That means that you're going to create an empty container, which you can then select all the files in that you want to publish in one go. So let me just call this a demo release. Create this. Now I have this empty container. I can simply go here and say, okay, I want to select items to be part of that release. And then it comes with a list of well, all the files basically that you can have. So I can add a complete folder if you like. So if I want to add all of the files, all of the items that are part of the project folders, I can do that. I can include QVS files, of course, and files from other folders as well. So That's another way of creating a release. We're now not using the relations that are stored in PlatformManager, so there are no dependencies that are automatically added to the release. But of course, this is a way to do it as well. And this is especially useful if you want to merge files from multiple different folders or streams into one single release. Then this might be a better way to do it. Also, one of the things that I didn't explain before, we have this flag in the release that means that there are items in your release which are not the latest version. And then you can decide to update that release to have all the latest apps being part of your release. So in this case, this release was created last year. So you can imagine that a lot of these items are outdated now. If I wanted to update all of them, I could simply use the update function, specify a comment again, of course, and then you can see that Q3 now has all of the latest versions. All of the flags have been removed and it's completely up to date. This is what I wanted to show you about deployment and releases. So I hope it was useful and hope to see you again soon.